Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, Governor Jerry Brown comes to San Diego to stump for his tax initiative. He says it will raise money for schools and public safety.
Plus, the pros and cons of Proposition 30 and why some say it'll drive small businesses out of town. And California's Department of Corporations issues a strong warning against internet payday loans and why some say they use the web to evade consumer protection laws.
And a wild water gun fight in Balboa Park has police thinking about how they monitor social media. KPBS Evening Edition starts now.
KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Irwin Jacobs and by
Hello, good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dwayne Brown. Southern California Edison says it will downsize the staff at the San Onofre nuclear power plant in the North County. Edison says it will cut 730 workers beginning this fall. The company says it's been reviewing costs at San Onofre for 2 years and found they're higher than at other plants like it. Edison also says it needs to be prudent about future spending because the ongoing problems with San Onofre steam generators. The company says the reality is the Unit 3 reactor will not be operating for some time. Edison's downsizing is expected to begin in October. It is the first week of school for students at San Diego's community colleges, and at City College downtown today, some students got a surprise visit from Governor Jerry Brown. He's on the stump campaigning for a November ballot measure to deal with the state's chronic budget mess. Some of the faces in this sociology class say it all. We've heard it before, Governor Jerry Brown, and what makes Prop 30 any different?
It's a crucial proposition, and the people of California will decide whether to cut educational opportunity in San Diego or to expand it.
Over the past 4 years, nearly $35 million has been cut from San Diego's community college district, and more than 2,700 courses have been eliminated due to state budget cuts. City College student Royal Houston was surprised to hear about the possibility of even more cuts.
I noticed that like our fees had went up, not only for enrollment, but book fees and things like that was going up instead of going down. So I was actually kind of looking forward to something in November to like vote to counteract that a little bit.
All the money from this tax will go in to support education.
But when confronted with the perception the state isn't doing a good job managing what it already has, such as money recently recovered from the Parks Department, the governor had this to say.
I'm glad you brought up that subject because it proves just the opposite. The parks have $54 million more than they thought they had. So that's going to be helpful as we try to open up parks going forward.
The governor has a lot of convincing to do between now and November. And like a college professor, he's taking his message to the classroom and those most affected and able to do something about it.
So Proposition 30 will, by asking the most affluent, the most blessed of all the people in our society in California to pay 1 or 2 or 3% more. And with that money, we will be able to pump billions into the schools of California.
Governor Brown says without Prop 30, California schools and colleges face another $6 billion in cuts this year. The final report has been released on the death of former Charger football player Junior Seau. County medical examiner says there were no traces of drugs or alcohol in Seau's system. He committed suicide in May at his home in Oceanside. The report says there were traces of a prescription sleep aid and painkillers, but no signs of abusing those drugs. A not guilty plea today from a former Border Patrol union leader charged with stealing union funds. T.J. Bonner is accused of filing bogus expense and pay claims totaling tens of thousands of dollars. He was head of the National Border Patrol Council for 22 years. Bonner says all his pay claims were legitimate. He says he's the victim of political payback because he criticized border security policies. San Diego Mayor's office says the bill to repair Balboa Park's Lily Pond is now up to $19,000. It was trashed in a giant water gun fight earlier this month. The Friends of Balboa Park say they've raised $13,000 so far to fix the pond. It's still being inspected for damage. The incident raised questions of whether police knew about the water gun fight in the first place. It was promoted heavily on social media. KPBS reporter Claire Tregeser has been looking into the story. She joins us from the news center. Well, Claire, you talked to the police department about how they use social media. What did they have to say?
That's right. I talked with Brian Marvel, who is the president of the San Diego Police Officers Association and an active police officer. He said he would like to see the police have someone assigned to monitor social media. That way they can see a lot of people tweeting or posting on Facebook about a big event like the water gun fight in Balboa Park. Then they can send police officers to check out what's happening. Marvel said the police did know about the water gun fight in advance because a woman had called in to alert them, but they may not have known just how many people planned to attend.
And how does the police department actually use social media now?
Right now they do have a Twitter account, but it only tweets out short phrases about crime news or links to a crime alert system. Marvel said he'd like to see them use that account to get more messages out to the community. For example, saying there will be a police officer at this neighborhood meeting to answer your questions. Assistant Chief Boyd Long also told me today that the police department is in the middle of trying out the use of Facebook pages. He said the department will have an established page in mid-September, and that information posted there will also go to Twitter.
Now, Claire, do other public safety organizations use social media differently?
Yes, the county sheriff's department has pretty active Twitter and Facebook pages where they send out safety information and also promote positive stories about the department. The state's fire agency, CAL FIRE, uses its Twitter account to send out constant updates during wildfires. And even the Police Officers Association has a Twitter account that passes out a lot more information about crime news and what the police department is doing.
KPBS reporter Claire Tregeser. A few minutes ago, we showed you Governor Jerry Brown's visit to San Diego today, rallying support for his tax initiative on the November ballot. Peggy Pico takes a closer look at Prop 30's impact on schools and small businesses.
If approved by voters, most of the tax revenue from Proposition 30 will go to cash-strapped public schools, but opponents say it will come at a cost to small businesses. But before getting to the pros and cons, here's what's supposed to happen if the temporary sales and income tax passes in November. There will be a 1/4 cent per dollar sales tax increase through 2016. Income tax will increase for individuals earning $250,000 or more, and for families earning more than $500,000 a year through the year 2018. Prop 30 is expected to raise $6 billion in state revenues annually for the next 5 years. Here with a perspective on each side of the issue is the chairman of San Diego Tax Fighters, Richard Reiter, and Murdasa Baksamusa from the Middle Class Taxpayers Association, San Diego. Murdasa, what will happen to school funding if this proposition doesn't pass?
This is $6 billion in cuts. It's a serious money that just in San Diego Unified alone could translate into increased class sizes, teacher layoffs, and shorter school terms. So it's very serious for schools.
Richard, now we know budget cuts, as he was saying, have devastated public schools here in California. If we don't get this sales tax, how are we going to prevent that in the future?
Well, one of the problems is that they're spending the money now trying to force us into supporting a tax increase. Basically, they're holding our kids hostage. They didn't tell the districts to control their spending now. They're just assuming that a tax increase is going to pass when the last 8 such tax increases have failed in the state of California. This is an extremely dangerous and I find very cavalier policy about the future of our kids.
What other way can you protect the schools or get money from the schools besides raising taxes?
You prioritize your spending. We have the highest cost per prisoner in the nation. We have the highest rate of incarceration in the nation. We have made no effort to control our runaway pensions, health care costs. We are not doing any of the reforms that are necessary to bring California spending under control, and what this policy will do is to continue on without reforms.
Murdasa, what do you think about that? Do you think that taxes are a legitimate way to help our schools?
Well, I strongly feel that we need to invest in education. We have one of the lowest per capita spending in the nation amongst all states. So we owe it to our children to invest in their education.
The Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association calls Prop 30 an excuse to raise taxes. They say it will not provide more monies to schools. Have you heard that argument, and what's your response?
I think that this creates a lockbox. Governor Jerry Brown has committed to making sure there's a constitutional lockbox that protects this money from general fund, from the legislature, into education and public safety only, as it is earmarked in this ballot measure. So therefore, there is a certain amount of guarantees built into this ballot measure for protecting education and public safety.
And Richard, opponents to Prop 30 also say that this tax increase would directly impact small businesses. They say that it could, cause them to leave our state. Do you think that's true?
I think it will cause both small and large business to leave our state. We have the highest corporate income tax rate west of the Mississippi, which is where our economic competitors are. We have the highest business failure rate, small business failure rate in the nation at 69% above the national average with the current high tax policy. If this policy is passed, then high earners in this state will pay 21% more than the second highest state, 34% more than the third highest state, which is Oregon, and a heck of a lot more than the rest. People won't leave a country for tax reasons, but they will leave a state. People are mobile in that regard. We're already having an outflow. We need to stem that outflow. We need wealthy people in California. Even if we don't like them, we need their revenue.
Do you think there is a direct link between Prop 30 and these small business owners?
Yes, a lot of small business owners are not incorporated, or they're pass-through corporations, so they pay the full tax on what they earn as personal income tax. And that means they pay not only the federal income tax, but they'll be paying the California income tax, which for top earners is going to be 13.3%, including full tax on capital gains, people making Facebook profits as an example. You're going to see a lot more mobility to Texas, Nevada, Washington, and other states which have zero income tax. I can assure you that all the states have far less income tax.
Murtaza, do you agree? Do you think that people have to choose between a business economy in their city and education?
California is a state of entrepreneurship and innovation. We have one of the highest business startups in the nation. People come to California, flourish because of our education and our quality of life. Our UC system and CSU system need to be invested in to make sure that the future entrepreneurship spirit stays within California, that we're competitive globally. So that's why this investment is important.
All right, Murtaza, Richard Ryder, thank you both so much for talking with me today.
Thank you.
The home of the Christmas poinsettia is being sold. A Dutch company is taking over the Ecke Ranch in Encinitas. The ranch in San Diego's North County has been around since the 1920s, developing a new variety, or various varieties, of poinsettias. That work will continue under new owners. Apple set a new record today, becoming the world's most valuable company ever. A surge in its stock raised Apple's value to $624 billion, beating a record set by Microsoft in 1999. Apple closed at just over $665 a share today. A new warning tonight for Californians from the Department of Corporations about the dangers of internet payday loans. Peggy Pico has the story.
Payday loans with short-term, extremely high interest rates have long been the target of consumer advocate groups. Now, the California Department of Corporations has issued a strong warning against payday lending on the internet. According to research by Pew Charitable Trust, 11% of payday borrowers earn between $15,000 and $25,000 a year, but just 5% of those who earn between $40,000 and $50,000 a year annually have used a payday loan. Here to talk about consumer spending habits and the impact of payday loans on the folks who use them and the economy is Miro Kopik, a marketing professor at the SDSU School of Business. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Payday loans advertise they're for emergencies, for come and get this money quick, we'll put $10,000 in your bank, at least the ones I've seen on television. But the research shows that these borrowers are using the money for everyday things, paying their rent, their utilities, things like that. What does that tell you?
Well, that tells me that consumers, there's a permanent underclass being developed consumer underclass that's focused on the underemployed. One of the biggest issues most recently over the last 5 years has been the number of underemployed in the economy, and they have a more optimistic expectation that their employment will be full and that using payday loans could be a bridge to their next step in improving their situation.
So it may not improve their situation, but some may argue, but isn't it helping the economy because they're giving all this money back to the economy? Does it help the economy?
No, it doesn't, because what it does is it basically maintains a lifestyle. Now, they can certainly cut back certain things, and that would reduce the amount of spending in the economy, but there's greater savings. The bigger issue is it depends on what they're spending it for, but it's the additional expenditures, clothes, back to school items, appliances. Those are the things that obviously these people cannot afford if 7 out of 10 are spending it for their daily or monthly expenses.
Necessities, essentially.
Absolutely.
Now, Pew researchers also found that many of these borrowers actually don't have full-time jobs. 10% are unemployed and 12% are disabled, meaning they're actually borrowing against government disability checks. That's discouraging to me, to say the least. Is it legal?
There's nothing illegal about it. It's the terms that they're borrowing under that can invite scrutiny. But basically what it's saying is that the government benefits are not enough to live on. So these people have to kind of fill the gap in between their government payments to be able to make their lifestyle payments to different entities.
And it snowballs, the financial loss. The Centers for Responsible Lending says California payday borrowers lose more than $450 million each year due to extreme fees on their loan. Explain why that is, why it's so much, why we're looking at 459% rates or things like that just seem absurd. Is it because people don't know?
It's very interesting. There's a truth in lending clause that requires these payday lenders to tell consumers how much total interest they're spending. So to give you a perspective, if you're going to do a cash advance on your credit card, most cash advances are between 23 to 25%. The average payday loan, they base it based on every $100 of borrowing. So if I'm going to borrow $100, I'm going to spend between $15 and $20 in interest, which equates to roughly a 400% annual interest payment. If people really understand that concept, they may elect not to do a payday loan. They may elect not to make certain expenditures. They may borrow from friends and family. They may go to a pawn shop and sell something to make those payments.
I want to briefly touch on payday lending on the internet. This alert was really targeted toward that, saying that they don't fall under these regulations or these rules or these disclosures. What is your advice to people as far as who may want to get a payday loan? Should they go to the internet? What other options are available?
I mean, if they're looking at payday loans, the vast majority of people using payday loans are going to the storefronts, to moneytree.com or Advance America. They try very hard to present a fairly clear and direct reply to consumers. The issue with online payday loans is that it depends on the source. Theoretically, they're supposed to say what the annual percentage rate is. The issue is that some of them skirt state laws, and so those, a lot of times, younger consumers are more likely to use online lending, but it's the other consumers who are not really knowledgeable about online that they could be
kind of persuade. Let me ask you this: if you had to say two things, maybe avoid internet. What would be your two sort of, if you're gonna have to do a payday loan, what should you do to protect yourself?
If I'm going to do a payday loan, I'd rather go to a reputable payday loan company at their storefront. If I'm going to do something online, I would research and maybe use that company's online option. So say moneytree.com or advanceamerica.com. Those would be the ones at least I would target. They deal more reputably with consumers. The other ones, what they'll do is sometimes they'll sell consumer data to a lot of other entities, and so you may get calls about loans from other people that you never even thought that you were providing the information to.
All right, I wish we could talk more. We're out of time. There is more information about this on our website. Miro, thank you so much for talking with us.
Thanks, Peggy.
More excessive heat is expected tomorrow, and San Diego Gas and Electric is once again asking customers to cut their power use. The utility is providing a bill credit for cutting back on your electricity. Here's a look at the forecast, and there is some relief on the way. We have an encore presentation from our culture desk this evening. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando speaks with the creative team behind the Old Globe production of one of Shakespeare's best-known villains.
The real Richard III was likely very different from the character created by William Shakespeare in the 1590s. But on stage and in a series of memorable films, the last king from the House of York has been immortalized as an artist in evil who both fascinates and repels.
Now is the winter of our discontent.
Evil, when it's presented on stage, is charismatic. I think if you actually look at the portraits of tyrants through the ages, from Stalin onwards, they were very charismatic figures because they had, if you like, a guru quality, even though the politics was distasteful.
Lindsay Posner's production of Richard III for the Old Globe Theatre's festival stage makes the 400-year-old play resonate for contemporary audiences by tying it into modern politics.
We've been through various historical moments recently with Gaddafi and Hussein, which follows pretty directly both the psychological and, in one sense, the storyline of Richard III, obviously not in its historical context, but in every other way. In terms of the design and the concept, we've tried to make it feel very modern, and that the battle scenes are modern and very exciting. And generally, we've given it a modern, very accessible slant, rather than setting it in a court in the 16th century, which doesn't always work, although sometimes it's nice to look at. I think this will hopefully immediately speak to people in terms of what it's about.
Actor Jay Whittaker played Richard 13 years ago, but finds new pleasure in taking on Shakespeare's complex villain again.
I think the joy of the part and of watching it is seeing him woo the audience and charm them and then turn.
Upon my life, she finds, although I cannot, myself to be a marvelous, proper man.
It begins with his wonderful speeches where he engages the audience and gets the audience to go on his ride.
He definitely gets joy from it, and gets joy in bewildering the audience as much as he does the characters and making them laugh at moments when it might not be completely appropriate to laugh.
I'll be at charges for a looking glass and entertain a score or two of tailors to study fashions to adorn my body.
There's certainly a sense that he sometimes stands outside his actions in order to relish them and take the audience along with him.
Well, shine out, fair sun, till I have bought a glass, that I may see my shadow as I pass.
He's moving the chess pieces constantly, and yet at the same time playing this character that everyone thinks he's not smart enough to be moving all the pieces.
Cousin, thou wast not wont to be so dull. Shall I be plain? I wish the bastard's dead, and I would have it suddenly performed. What sayest thou now? Speak suddenly, be brief.
Your grace may do your pleasure.
Tut, thou art all ice. Thy kindness freezes. Say, have I thy consent that they shall die?
It always seems like he's pushing people. Everyone that he's around, he's pushing them to beyond their comfort zone.
Day, yield me not thy light, nor night thy rest. Be opposite all planets of good luck to my proceeding, if, with dear heart's love, immaculate devotion, holy thoughts, I tender not thy beauteous princely daughter. In her consists my happiness.
And everybody's being manipulated all the time. There's not a single person free from his manipulation.
There's a sense that he knows what he wants from each character in each scene and exerts his will to achieve that. Till I think he's crowned, then things start to slip from his grasp and distrust grows and insecurity grows.
He's not enjoying himself anymore. When he's enjoying himself, he wants the audience to be a part of it. Yeah. And then when he's not, they become almost an enemy.
Richard's trajectory as a character proves riveting from start to finish and has enough vigor to still engage contemporary audiences.
I think the way Shakespeare frames a sentence and uses language, it opens up a channel for passion and emotion that is so much deeper and stronger than you can find often in contemporary plays, especially words the words he chooses.
I'd say with all Shakespeare, if it's done well and it's told with clarity, the story and the plots are the most engaging plot lines in any dramas you will find.
It cannot be avoided but by this. It will not be avoided but by this.
Beth Accomando reporting. Richard III runs through September 29th at the Globe's Outdoor Festival stage.
In tonight's Public Square, earlier we told you about Governor Jerry Brown's visit to San Diego today to bolster support for his tax initiative. But based on our KPBS website comments, he didn't succeed. California Defender wrote, "Why are you punishing all Californians rather than fixing the budget mess your legislature has created?" Carl Flores' comment on Facebook compared the state's government to an out-of-shape couch potato. He said it's time we exercise our need to put Sacramento on a diet and exercise the deep cuts in spending they keep telling us they will enforce if we say no. Astrofan directed his website statement directly at the governor, saying, "No, Jerry, you're not taking one more cent from me. I'm taxed out." You can comment on this story or any others you've seen here on KPBS by following us on Twitter, Facebook, or just email us at publicsquare@kpbs.org.
And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. You have a great night.